everyone, today I'm going to teach you 7 different abstract acrylic painting techniques.
I wanted to take something like a simple object, and in this case we did a heart, simple object, and create these really dynamic textures. So we've got all kinds of different things that we're going to learn how to make with these textures on this. So follow along with a few of them and you can create your own. Now, before I even start my painting, I want to think about setting the mood. Think about what kind of feeling that you want this painting to give off. The one that I'm going to create, I want it to kind of reflect myself. I am trying to go for like a creative, expressive, dynamic mood and feeling for it. So therefore, I'm going to use the primary colors. So a lot of blue, magenta, yellow. Maybe not equal amounts of those colors, although when you blend those colors, you're going to get lots of different colors. And then think about words that might express the mood that you want to portray. So I am bringing these words back down there. I want it to be creative. I want it to have energy. So I want to have energetic, expressive, and loving. And what types of textures do you want to create to support that mood? Maybe a wavy texture, blotted. I want it layered. I want it thick. So I want to have, a lot of paint kind of built up on there, or any kind of medium, layered. So it's a good idea to start something like this and to work from there. First of all, you're going to need a lot of different materials. I'm going to start by using my acrylic paint on a piece of watercolor paper. So you definitely want a piece of paper that is going to take some sort of beating, basically, okay? If you want to, you can start with the shape of your object and keep it simple. Whatever you do, it doesn't have to be a heart, but keep it simple. So something that's symbolic. Maybe you want to do a 4-leaf clover or something very simple like that. You can draw very quickly with your pencil and then think of your color scheme that you're going to do.
Paint in the direction of how you'd like to see the texture form in your print. If you paint in little circles, you'll see that texture on the print. Do not brush back and forth. You don't want the paint to soak too much into the paper or dry. Acrylics dry fast, and you're going to need that thick, gloppy paint for that print.
I'm going to take my other piece of paper and I'm going to put it right over the top, line it up.
And you are going to pull a print from this. Push down and rub the paper over your painting. Pull it off and you have the opposite of your painting.
Now I'm going to let these dry, and later I'm going to do some background. So you can kind of see I've got this really cool texture. It's like almost a stucco type of feel to it. And it didn't actually print in there, which is kind of neat. I am going to use totally different materials. I'm going to use watercolors. I've got some charcoal, and I've also got a graphite stick. I have a 6B pencil that I might be using in there. I don't know exactly what I'm going to be using. Maybe some salt to give some texture if I'm going to use some watercolor in there. I might wash my piece a little bit. This is what I did with this one. This is really kind of washed out, and I thought I'd go back over that a little bit more. I'm going to need some just copy paper. Definitely need some copy paper to get some of these printed areas on there. So those are some things I'm going to show you. Now that I have a couple of dry paintings, okay, I'm going to start by working on this.
I decided to use my 6B pencil and go around and find some interesting spaces where I can shade and accent those with my pencil. I want to experiment with lots of different mediums. So with the pencil, I can also smudge with a paper towel, accenting some of those areas. I can use a little bit of water on the paper towel to rub off some of the dark graphite so it sinks into the low areas.
I kind of like how this is going. Now I'm going to do a little bit of my background. So I'm going to paint again. Think to yourself, what colors are you going to use for the background? And what's going to bring this out?
This part is not a plan, it's more of a feel. I find what I need to do as I paint is to balance the spaces, colors, textures, darks, and lights. If you don't like something, you can always layer over with a different technique. This is also the reason why you have several prints. Maybe the first one didn't turn out so well, or it could be a practice, or maybe you love it, or you love certain things that you did about it. You can print the background, or you can leave it by itself.
Okay. I do like to try some little tricks here. Let's take some water and some areas here I'm going to water down a little bit. Okay. And picking some up there. Because this kind of effect you're not going to get with just paint. This is kind of neat when we do something that is a little unorthodox as far as painting. You're kind of doing different types of techniques so that you can get some really dynamic work, some different work.
I worked on my painting a little more, so the paint is layered and built up. So I'm going to show you my next favorite painting technique. It's called printing paint. And that's exactly what it is. So right now I'm kind of looking about where I want to layer a little more color up. So I'm painting the back of a piece of copy paper and then simply laying it over my piece where I'd like that color to be and pulling it right off. Another technique that you can do is you can write something on the back of that paper and it will imprint on some of the areas. This portion of blue was printed, this portion of yellow was printed, and the black, of course, on top that you saw me do.
This is washing your piece. If you decide to wash your piece, make sure that you're using lukewarm water. You don't want it too hot or else too much paint will come off. And you don't want it super cold, so just not really, really cold. And you already want a layer of paint on there. Now I'm just going to kind of wash it a little bit. You know, and I can use paper towels or whatever to kind of blot this a little bit. But just a little texture will come out differently because you washed it. And you definitely want to have the layers underneath that paint. You can kind of see I've got some different kind of textures that I wouldn't get with it just being on there. And if you want to take a paper towel and you want to blot some of this, you'll get some of that paint underneath to show up. So you can go in circles and buff it off, however you want to do this. This is a very cool way to get some different texture. But it also can, you got to practice this. This can go way too far and you can really wash a whole lot of good stuff off. Careful when you're washing your piece. You can lay a paper towel right on top of it and just blot it a little bit and it'll take off a little bit of paint that's on there. This is something you may or may not want to do.
Now this is dried. I washed it. And I do like how that turned out. And I do think I need the heart to stand out a little bit more. So I got my print that I made of this originally. And I'm going to take some magenta and white and just make this a little bit lighter. And I'm going to paint this side of the heart over here. I want this to kind of be a little more magenta, pinkish, so that I can have it stand out a little bit more. So I gotta think that I'm gonna go backwards on this.
I'm going to give my brush strokes direction to add to the texture of the print. Then I want to blend out and soften the edges. I use the water on paper towel technique and carefully remove and move some paint around. I want to work into those layers.
And while this is still wet, I'm going to take a scrap piece of paper and I'm going to print something on it. So I'm going to go right over the top.
Think about the words that you use on your planning sheet. You're going to take a piece of scrap paper, lay it over the wet paint, and draw any word or drawing that you want to over the top of it. Then pull the paper off. If more paint sticks than you want, don't worry about it. Work with it.
Next step I'm going to do is I took some scrap paper and I'm going to use this to collage on my piece. I'm going to write some words on here that I feel like go with my work. However I was trying to portray that mood. I'm going to write a word on there. I don't think I'm going to put 2 words on it. And I thought at first maybe I'll just do it in pencil because I did use a lot of pencil in this, but I'm also thinking I would dress it up with some colored pencil as well. We'll see how this goes. I'm going to stain the paper before I put it on the piece, and then I think I'm going to Mod Podge or glue, basically glue it on, and I'll see how it goes from there.
I'm staining the paper with a charcoal stick and a little chalk pastel, and I rub with my fingers around the edges and through it to achieve the look that I want to get with this.
One of my final touches to this is adding these words that I did, and I got some Mod Podge, and I'm going to use my Mod Podge with a brush. This might be a little, it might stand out a little bit because it's glossy, so you might need to use this over some other places just to get some kind of balance in there from the gloss. I'm kind of checking out like where these things would go, and you know, I'm thinking somewhere down here for this one. And this one I'm going to put here. So first I'm going to put this one on. And just putting some on the back. This is Mod Podge. So you can use glue, you know, whatever you want to use to put it down with. And I'm just brushing over the top. And I'm just going to balance a little bit with just some little highlights of Mod Podge because my Mod Podge is going to be glossy. And so when you look at this in light, it will change a little bit. And some will shine, some will not shine. All right, I think I'm done. Enjoy yourself. Try all kinds of different things. This is whatever you make of it. Try all kinds of different medium. All right, enjoy, have fun, be thoughtful, and
Thanks for watching. See you next time.